Yo, welcome to the channel. In this video today, we're going over the Stamina Necromancer for the Deadlands patch. So, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Max health is 20.9k, maximum stamina is 31.5, stam recovery is 1.4k unbuffed, weapon damage is 4k unbuffed, and weapon critical is 51%, and physical penetration I have 5.8. So, I'm a Khajiit, keep that in mind. Your points, your stats may look a little different from mine. But just bear in mind, Khajiit, Orc, Dark Elf, I would say would probably be the best three classes. After that, Red Guard, Imperial is pretty solid as well. Same thing with Wood Elf. You can also do High Elf if you wanted to. It gives you a little extra magicka. More magicka thing, which you really don't need, but they do offer weapon damage on one of the racial passives as well. So, but it's just up to you. You can do any content with pretty much any race, but if you're looking for the higher numbers, Orc, Wood Elf, Orc, Khajiit, and Dark Elf are your main three. So, buffed up. Let's go ahead and hit that. You'll see my stam recovery is 2.2k, my weapon damage is 4.7, and my physical penetration is 7.3. So I'm setting really pretty at the penetration mark, and the weapon damage will actually go even higher because one of my sets isn't procced, and I do not have my weapon damage enchant procced from my back bar. So your weapon damage usually gets up to around 5.76k ish, somewhere in that mark. So, but yeah, at 64 points into stamina. Food I'm running is the Lava Foot Soup and Sultries, and the boon I'm running is the Thief. Now, if you feel like 20.9, for whatever reason, 20.9k isn't cutting it for you, you can always switch to Dubious Camor. Your stats will look a little like this. You'll have 24.1k health, your max stamina goes to 29.4, and your stamina recovery drops to 1.2. Keep in mind that is unbuffed. So if you buff up a little bit, you will see that your health recovery, your stam recovery goes up to 1.8. So, or yeah, 1.8. So you still have pretty decent recovery. So it's not that big of a deal. It's just whichever one you want to prefer. 20k HP is more than enough for me, so I'm pretty happy with the Lava Foot Soup and Sultries. So, champion points in the green tree. I have 50 into Gilded and Fortune Favor just to increase my gold. Gilded Fingers increase my gold by 10% from everything. Gilded Fortune Favor increases 50% gold from chests and safe boxes. So it's pretty nice to have there. This one, I'm just throwing points in places. But you can take this to 10 just to bridge the gap to Steadfast Enchantment. And basically, when you use a weapon charge, you have a 50% chance to not do that. So it is pretty nice. This is worth investing in if you have the points. So for the ones I keep on my bar, I keep treasure on my bar at all times to increase the quality of items I find in treasure chests. That's Overland, Dolmens, Trials, whatever I'm doing. If there is a treasure chest, I have a better chance of getting better quality items. Now, if you are in a normal dungeon, this will not make that necklace purple, but it gives you a better chance of getting a necklace from the chest. So, and then I have Master Gatherer and Plentiful Harvest. I keep these on my bar. You can take them off if you like. This one, Plentiful Harvest, gives you a 50% chance to gain extra double resources from the node. And this one, Master Gatherer, reduces the time it takes to gather that node by 50%. Usually if I'm running around waiting on a trial group or a dungeon queue, I'm usually farming. So this is what I usually keep these on my bar. Now I also keep Liquid Efficiency. Whenever I use a potion or poison, you have a 10% chance to not consume it. Now, we do use weapon power pots in this setup because we have no other way to get major brutality with this setup. So I do run it. So this causes me to possibly not have to spend more gold or resources to make them. Now, if you don't care about the resources, the double harvest and Master Gatherer and Plentiful Harvest up here, you can always put on Steve's Blessing. This increases your out of combat movement speed by 20%. And Rationer, this increases the duration of your food or drink by 30 minutes. So I'd replace those with those if you want to. Now, Red Tree, there's so many passives. So the ones that I keep on my bar is Balanced Vitality, which gives me an extra 1400 max health. Fortified, which gives me an extra 1.7k armor. And Rejuvenation, which gives me an extra 90 health, magic, and stam recovery. And then finally, Bloody Renewal. Whenever I land the killing blow on an enemy, I get an extra 1500 stamina back from that enemy. So passive wise, Defiance, Tumbling, Mystic Tenacity. Hero's Vigor is a really solid passive to have. This is one of the ones I would try to get first. Basically gives you an extra 560 max health. Then in this one we have Hasty, and then Sprinter, and then we have Tireless Guardian, which will reduce the cost of block, Fortification, Savage Defense, Bash and Brutality, and then this one, Nimble Protector. So, and then over here, I do like this once I have the extra points. You just kind of bridge the gap. You can go either way. It costs 10 both ways. To temper soul, basically when we get caught and get dropped, when we get res, we'll have 10% more of our resources. So this is a really nice one to have after you've gotten the others. Now for the blue tree, Precision gives us more critical chance. Tireless Discipline gives us 520 max stamina. And then in here we have Piercing, gives us 700 offensive penetration. Battle Mastery, which gives us an extra 60% chance to apply a martial status effect. And Mighty grants 100 weapon and spell damage to martial attacks. Affects physical poison, disease, and bleed damage. Now for the ones that I keep on my bar, I keep Fighting Finesse on my bar at all times. It gives me an extra 10% critical damage and critical healing. And then these three over here, you can change these out however you want. I have Thermometer, which increases my damage done with damage over time effects by 10%. Deadly Aim, which increases my single target attacks by 10%. And Biting Aura, which increases the area of effect attacks by 10%. So, now, you can really use any of these four. Even Master at Arms, which increases your damage done with direct damage attacks by 10%, is fine. So, honestly, I would keep 2 of these 3 on my bar at all times. And then if you can stay behind the enemy, use Backstabber, which will basically increase your critical damage done by 15% as long as you're behind the enemy or flanking the enemy. So normally I replace Thermometer with that, but you can really do whichever one you like, whichever one you feel like isn't benefiting you the most over here. Just replace it with Backstabber. But I don't keep Backstabber on my bar at all times due to the fact that when you queue in for dungeons, if you're not with a group, you never know if you're going to get a real tank that can hold the boss still or a tank that's even going to stand still. You know, sometimes they do run in circles and the boss just turns with it. They're just having fun. But you're not going to, not being able to stay behind the boss means you're not going to get any benefit out of this. So these will outperform that Backstabber in that case. So if you know you can stay, replace either one of these with it. But yeah, just roll what you like. This is what I use most of the time. Thermometer, Deadly Aim, Biting Aura, and Fighting Finesse. So sets, using an oldie but a goodie, Briarheart. I'm using a Briarheart Maul, Precise with a Absorb Stamina enchant. Just for a little, it's going to deal 2.1k physical damage and restores 354 stamina. Now at the same time, I'm finding myself not really needing the Absorb Stamina enchant, so I will probably be replacing this with either a Poison or a Flame Damage enchant. I'm more or less leaning toward the Poison for right now. So, but I'm running it on my front bar and jewelry, all with weapon damage enchant, all bloodthirsty. Now, I was running this on my Nightblade that has an oh no, I think I was originally running this on my Templar. They don't have an execute, so I like, if I know the class doesn't have an execute, I try to stick with 3 bloodthirsty. But if they do have an execute, sometimes I'll run 2 bloodthirsty with 1 infused. Normally that's how most of my setups are, 2 bloodthirsty, 1 infused. But this one is 3 bloodthirsty, which is fine as well. So you can run whatever you like. If you want to go with 1 bloodthirsty, or 2 bloodthirsty, 1 infused, 2 infused, 1 bloodthirsty, or you can absolutely stick with robust. It's not going to be the end of the world. You'll still be able to hit enough to do almost any content with randoms, most 4-man content, stuff like that, so you should be absolutely fine. So this comes from Rothgard, and what this set does is it gives us critical chance, max stamina, critical chance, and when you do critical damage, you increase your weapon and spell damage by 450 for 10 seconds. While this effect is active, your critical strikes heal you for 251 health. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds, and the heal scales off the higher of your max magicka or stamina. So it's just a nice little set. We run it on a front bar because once it procs on the front bar, we can bar swap, and we won't lose that extra 450. And then on back power, we have the Maelstrom Bow. This comes from normal Maelstrom Arena, infused with a weapon damage intent. And what this does is increase the damage volley deals by 430 each tick. Bonus increases by 143 every time volley ticks, up to a maximum of 8 times. So, because this is static, we really don't need to have this double barred. So, we can run a Maelstrom Bow on the back bar. You can also run the Master's Bow if you want, but we don't use poison injection in this setup. So you will have to change a couple things and change the rotation as well. But that's just kind of how it is. So, but this comes from normal Maelstrom Arena. Normal Maelstrom Arena is extremely easy to do. It may take you 20 to 30 minutes. But just get in there. You might have to run it more than once. But this is definitely worth getting. This will increase your DPS by 2 to 3k. So, as long as you keep volley up, this bow is definitely worth having. So, for the monster set, we're running Kenrose Nightmare. This comes from a hollow grave. We're running a light helmet divines with max stamina and a light shoulders divines with max stamina. What this does, it gives us weapon damage, and damaging enemy with a light attack puts a bone stack on them for 5 seconds, up to once every 0.5 seconds. At 5 stacks on a dodgeable skeletal hand attacks your enemy after 1 second, knocking them into there and stunning them for 3 seconds, or dealing 10k magic damage. If they cannot be stunned, enemies then become immune to Nightmare's Nightmare stacks for 4 seconds. Damage scales off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. Now, fully buffed, I have checked this out, and it usually gets close to 13k. But now at the same time, proc sets can crit, so this is definitely worth having. Now, if you do not have, if you're not very well versed with the light attack weaving, this isn't going to do you any good. So replace it with Stormfist. Stormfist would be the next best monster set. It comes from Tempest Island. Got to go in there on vet. Pretty easy dungeon all the way up until the final boss, but as long as you hug her up until the AoE, then back out, and then back in, she won't charge anybody to one-shot them, and your group can pretty much just hug up and nuke them to the ground. That's pretty much all you got to do. So, and this will give you some more stam recovery, and when you deal damage, you have a 10% chance to create a Thunder Fist to crush the enemy, dealing 1.3k shock damage every 1 second for 3 seconds to all enemies within 4 meters, and a final 14.4k physical damage when the fist closes. So, this would be the other monster set that I would run. If you're having trouble, or maybe you just can't get through Tempest Island for whatever reason, Fungal Grotto 1. Get your crags, gives you offensive penetration. When you deal damage, you have a 10% chance to spawn Dragolims or create shockwaves in front of you, dealing 1.1k physical damage every 0.6 seconds for 2.4 seconds. So, these would be my 3 choices. If you're just looking for that first monster set, get your crags, and then go into Tempest Island to get Stormfist, and then, as soon as you can go into on Hollow Grave and grab Yoners. So, it's up to you, but those are my 3 monster sets of choice. So, now, the second 5-piece set that we're running is Kenrose. We're running it all in the body, all divines with max stamina. Now, if you wanted to, you could definitely run 1 infused, but I would try to get it to be the legs, chest, or helmet, because that's where you're going to get the most out of it. So, just keep that in mind. But I'm rolling 7 divines. And basically what Kenrose does, it gives us, adds weapon damage, it adds critical, and then it gives us more weapon damage, and the 5th piece dealing damage with a light or heavy attack grants you a stack of Burning Heart for 5 seconds, up to 5 stacks. While you have 5 stacks, you generate an Aura of Wrath, granting you Major Berserk, increasing your damage done by 10%. While you have an Aura of Wrath, allies within 12 meters of gain Minor Berserk, increase their damage done by 5%. So, most magic characters, they won't get anything that gives them Minor Berserk. So this could definitely increase their damage as well. But for the most part, if you have a healer hitting them with Combat Prayer, a Minor Berserk, they're already going to have it. So, but we're really running this just to give us Major Berserk. Now, this is another set that requires light attack weaving. And if you're not, if you have trouble light attack weaving, then you might want to look at a different set. You have a couple of options that I would recommend. There is Leviathan from Crypto Hearts. Basically gives you max stamina and then just a ton of critical chance. This with Brightheart is a good combination. It is a very easy combination to get because Crypto Hearts is one of the first kind of the beginning of dungeons, and is definitely worth using. Overland set wise, I don't, outside of Briarheart, there's not too many that I would recommend that is just going to increase your damage just outright. But you do have sets like Venomous Smite here, which basically when you deal critical damage, you're going to inflict them with Hunter's Venom, and they're going to take poison damage. So you could go with this. You could also go with something like Defiler here for Overland. But if you're just looking for pure damage, you can get you a set of New Moons crafted, New Moon Acolyte, and it will give you like 400 weapon damage at the 5-piece. And it gives you penetration, it gives you all kinds of stuff, and it is a crafted set, a very easy set to get. So if you don't want to farm Leviathan, then by all means you can put Briarheart jewelry, which jewelry can be a little expensive, and then do a couple pieces on the body, and then basically have somebody craft you New Moon for the weapons and the last 3 body pieces that you need. So, and then run your monster set. So that's just me, but Kenrose, Mjolnir's, Briarheart is a very good combination. I have no problem going through anything with this. So, skills. Main Bow is Wrecking Blow. We slam an enemy with an upward swing, dealing 10.3k physical damage. Grants you Empower for 3 seconds, increasing the damage of your light and heavy attacks by 40%. And because we do a lot of light attack weaving, we have empowering on a lot of our light attacks. So this works out a lot. Blasted Bones, summon a decaying skeleton from the ground. After 2.5 seconds, the skeleton runs after target and explodes when it gets close to them, dealing 13.5k disease damage to all enemies in the area, all enemies nearby, and applying Major Defile to them for 4 seconds, reducing their healing and health recovery by 16%, creates a corpse on death. Executioner, spin around and strike an enemy down, dealing 4.5k physical damage, and deals up to 400% more damage to enemies with less than 50% health. This is our execute. That's pretty much what we're using this for. We don't really start using this until the enemy is around 20% HP, and then we kind of start spamming this over Wrecking Blow. I know it says you can start using this at 50% when they're under 50% health, but it's not going to be as beneficial as Wrecking Blow. So I wouldn't drop Wrecking Blow until that 20% mark. So, Detonating Siphon, violently during the last spark of life from a corpse, dealing 20.2k disease damage over 12 seconds. To all enemies around the corpse and between you and the corpse, when the siphon ends, it causes the corpse to explode, dealing an additional 6.7k disease damage to all enemies around the corpse. This ability scales off your highest offensive stat. While slotted, your damage done is increased by 3%. So, we get this started with Blast Bones. So when Blast Bones hits, we're able to use Detonating Siphon. So it keeps that corpse there. Now, do be advised, Detonating Siphon, there is times where he just turns around, or your character will just turn around and latch onto whatever corpse is around. It won't always hit the target or the corpse underneath what you're looking at. I don't know what does that. It is kind of a nuisance. But honestly, I would just keep going with the rotation, and then when you come back through, try to redo it after the second Blast Bones that hits. So that way you don't throw off your whole rhythm. So you're going to lose some damage that way, but overall, you're going to lose a lot more, or it might make you feel weird having to just straight recast this twice. So it is kind of annoying, but it's just kind of how I do it. Camouflage Thunder is really just here for the Major Savagery, increasing our weapon critical rating by 2.6. You also gain Minor Berserk for 5 seconds after you deal critical damage from enemy's flank, increasing your damage done by 5%. So even if we don't have a healer in the group, we're still going to get Minor Berserk. So from this. Because unfortunately, Kenrose Wrath, it gives us Major Berserk, and it gives the people around us Minor Berserk. So we don't get Minor Berserk from this set. The people around us will, but we don't. But we get Major Berserk. So it's a pretty good trade-off. And then with Camo Hunter, we get our Minor Berserk, even if the healer isn't using Combat Prayer. Plus, it's there for the passive from the Fire Guild to give us some extra weapon damage. So, and then we have Flawless Dawnbreaker. Arm yourself in Radius Sacred Sword and dispense a Retribution, dealing 10.9k physical damage to enemies in front of you, and an additional 16k physical damage over 6 seconds. After activating, your weapon and spell damage is increased by 300 for 20 seconds. The only time I use this is when I have other Necros in my group. Outside of that, I'm always using the Colossus that is on my back bar. That is my main ultimate, and that is the one I'm using, just because of what it does. Now, if there's another, if our tank's a Necro, or if our healer's a Necro, or if the other DPS is a Necro, you never know. Especially if you're just running with randoms, and they can drop a Colossus during the execute phase, then I would use Dawnbreaker for the extra 300 weapon damage, just to start spamming this. So that's the only time I don't use my Colossus. So, and if I'm in a trial scenario, and someone else has Colossus at that point in time, and we're in execute phase, that's when I'll also use Dawnbreaker then. So, because it's not going to do me any good, because these don't stack. The effects from the Colossus do not stack, so it does me no good to hold this when we're in execute phase. So I'd rather just go ahead and use my Dawnbreaker to get my extra weapon damage. So, back bar, we're using Endless Hail. This lasts for 14 seconds, launch a multitude of arrows into the sky to rain down, dealing 1.6k physical damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second for 12 seconds, after a 2-second delay. And then we have Skeletal Archer. Unearth a Skeletal Archer from the dirt to fight by your side. For 16 seconds, Archer attacks the closest enemy every 2 seconds, dealing 2.8k physical damage. Each time the Archer deals damage, its next attack will do 5% more damage from the previous attack. So, this lasts for 14 seconds, but it has a 2-second delay. So, that's kind of how that goes. It doesn't last for 16 seconds, the duration is 14. It says it lasts for 12 with the 2-second. So, I know just reading it, the duration is 14 seconds, but it does only last for 12 with a 2-second delay, which makes that 14. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I've had some people like, oh, well, it lasts for 16 seconds. No, it doesn't. It lasts for 14. That's it. So I usually cast this and then cast this on the second rotation. On the rotation, so that way it stays that way, because this will go out before this. So then we have Bard Trap. This is a very nice bleed damage. Bleed dot. When triggered, the trap deals 4k bleed damage and additional 18k bleed damage over 18 seconds, and grants you minor force, increasing your critical damage by 10% for the duration. So we're getting minor force from this, plus a huge dot. Buffed up, this is like a 21k dot. So it's absolutely amazing, and it is worth using. So. And then we have Resolve and Vigor on our back bar. Let loose a battle cry, installing your self-resolve and healing for 15.7k health over 4 seconds. Now, this heal comes from PvP, but all you have to do is go into Cyrodiil at level 10, do that little tutorial quest, and you will have Vigor right from the jump. So, and it does not take long to morph either. I mean, like, I think you can go kill less than 20 mobs and have Vigor morphed. It's ridiculously easy to morph this. Now, if you don't want to use that, though, and you still want a heal, you can put Death Scythe on your back bar. It does have a heal attached to it. Even if you take it the Stamina Morph, I believe, it does heal you. So you can have this heal on the back bar if you want. Or, if you don't want to run Camo Hunter on your front bar, just put it on your front bar and you'll have a little heal. So let's say like your Fire Skill isn't fully leveled up. You just put the Death Scythe here, or what was it, Ruinous Scythe, and you'll have a little heal in the front bar if you don't want to do Vigor. But now, I really recommend to get Vigor, because that Scythe is only good as how many mobs is around you. So, and Vigor is a nice heal regardless. Plus, you can get Spirit Mender here. You just take it, and you can turn it into one where it absorbs more damage, or where it heals you for twice the amount but lasts half as long. Costs half as much. So these will take Magicka. You can just pick whichever one you want. Those would be the heals that I would use if I didn't have Vigor. That's just me. Go whichever one you like. And then we have Camo Hunter again on our back bar. It's just here, just for the passive from the Fires Guild, plus the Major Savagery on our back bar at all times. So that way we have this. But we use Weapon Power Pots, so it's not a big deal if we drop this. And then, for the main ultimate that we use is Pestilence Colossus. We unleash a Pestilent Flesh Colossus to pulverize the enemy in the area. Colossus smashes the ground 3 times over 3 seconds, dealing 10.1, 10.6, and 11.2 disease damage for the first, second, and third smash. Daily damage applies major vulnerability to any enemy hit for 12 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 10%. So, This is why we use this. That major vulnerability is absolutely amazing. And this works for your entire group. So the moment you hit this, they will take 10% more damage from everybody for 12 seconds. And in most 4-man content, that execute phase will last around 10 to 15 seconds. So, if everybody's on top of it. Somebody goes down, then it might last longer than that. But for the most part, if everybody is up and able to hit with their execute or hit with their abilities, that execute phase is usually pretty quick. So that 10 to 15 seconds is the window, and this lasts right in the center of it at 12 seconds. So, well, 13 seconds is the center of it, but you get what I mean. This is why you should use this. And always, I love to use this at the beginning and the end during the execute phase to get this back. So, no problem. Like I said, if somebody else has a Colossus that they can use, I use Dawnbreaker. There's no point in holding on to it. At this point, we're in execute phase. We're finishing the mob. So I use this. Now, if I'm in a trial scenario where 20% is still like 18 million, then yeah, I'll hold on to my Colossus then. But in most 4-man content, there's no need to hold on to this. Most execute phase, the boss is like 2 million, around 20% or so. Or 15% is like 2 million. So, it's just judge. You just have to judge when it is time to hold it and when it is use it. That's all I can say. So, DPS wise with this setup, 41k easily, no problem. And I don't know if it's been heard through this video, but I have kind of frozen a couple times here just while recording this video. I've seen my screen freeze for a couple of seconds. I hope that doesn't translate into the audio too well. Like, I hope it doesn't stutter or anything. But even with freezing up while doing this DPS test a couple times, I was still able to hit 41k easily. So, it is a very easy setup to get. Even without the Nightmare set, you could probably definitely replace it for Stormfist and hit very similar numbers to that. So, it's just up to you. Now, when it comes to DPS testing in general, you can use weapon power pots, or you can use these Gold Coast Warrior elixirs when it comes to just the pots that I use. So, weapon power pot, it restores 7.4k stamina. These restore 7.5. So these actually give you a little bit more stamina back, but overall it gives you the exact same thing that the weapon power pots do. So you can really use either one of these. I have these because I've gotten them from daily rewards, so I've just kind of kept them. So can't really do anything with them, so I just kind of keep them. But overall, you can use whatever. I wouldn't recommend the trash pots because we absolutely have no way to get major brutality, so we need that. Now, if you wanted to, you could get major brutality by swapping in momentum here. Use rally or forward momentum, whichever one you want to use, and drop camo hunter on the front bar if you wanted to. But then you would lose major savagery. So there's no way. I couldn't find a way to put it in without it. So you have to use. I have to use weapon power pots. If you want to, you can use whatever changes you want to get the results that you want. So when it comes to DPS testing in general, you would Archer to start, pot, trap, endless out, rotate. Throw off a couple of wrecking blows, blast bones, detonating, and then just repeat the process as you have to. Keep your dots up, keep them down. Every 2 abilities you're going to want to cast blast bones. So, that's all it is to it. Drop your Colossus when you can, but it is a very simple and very easy rotation. I think it's like every 2 rotations you're going to have to do detonating siphoning again. But overall, it lasts for 20 seconds, so it is kind of weird to put it in there. It's not necessarily a static rotation, not by any means. Sometimes, as you get going with it, as you get used to it, you can fire off a couple more wrecking blows, 1 or 2, before you have to rotate back to do endless hell. So it just depends. Sometimes you can get 1 and use an ultimate. So it's just something you got to go with, but that is a basic of the rotation. So you would just start up, pop your pot, trap, endless hell, Blast Bones, Wrecking Blow, Blast Bones, Detonating, Wrecking Blow. Kind of what I do. Endless Hell, Archer. You can go trap Beast right there already. Reset it if you want. It's up to you. But overall, that is pretty much a simple rotation. It's not very hard. It's not very complicated at all. Just make sure you're getting those light attack weaves in. If you're not, then Kenrose and Nightmare here, they're absolutely useless. So I would switch out to Stormfist and Leviathan. Me personally, if you just want to keep it easy. If you don't want to farm anything else, swap Kenrose for New Moon over Leviathan. It's just up to you. So, but yeah, it's a pretty easy and pretty simple build that I roll with this, and I have no problems hitting the DPS numbers to do absolutely anything with this. So, hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you're running on your Stem Necro, and until next time, take care.